Welcome to Hatman Strikes Back Daily Boxing News. As expected, David Benavidez retained his WBC World Light Heavyweight title with a 7th round TKO victory over Anthony Yarde. Let's talk about it. Now, like most people, I picked David Benavidez to win this fight. I said late stoppage or points. It ended up being a mid-round stoppage. I spoke in my prediction video about how I didn't think Yarde's physicality would play much of a role in this fight. I said I think Yarde's power is a bit overrated. And I said I think the result of the fight would come down to skill more so than who's the naturally bigger man. And the naturally bigger man certainly was Anthony Yarde. I know Benavidez walks around at over 200 pounds. What, you think Anthony Yarde doesn't? And when David Benavidez walks around over 200 pounds, he's carrying loads of fat. Anthony Yarde over 200 pounds is still nearly all muscle. But I always felt as though Benavidez's skill is going to be too much. He's very creative on the front foot. He throws a lot of shots. He's got a great jab. He mixes it up, head and body. He's deceptively powerful because you look at his build and he's got that skinny fat thing going on. Next to a guy like Anthony Yarde, a layman would think, well, there's just no way that Benavidez can be pushing a guy like Yarde back. Just look at the difference in body type. But as I say, Benavidez is deceptively strong. Now, while the result of this fight is no surprise to me whatsoever, it did happen a little earlier than I expected. I thought Yarde would probably last till at least the 9th. But I think one of the reasons for that is that Yarde got no respect from David Benavidez. He didn't earn any respect. His tactics were absolutely bizarre as far as I'm concerned. And even more than Yarde's tactics, the fact that Sergio Mora and Mike Coppinger were endorsing the tactics was even more bizarre. Anthony Yarde has never been a great boxer. So for him to go on the back foot and try and outslick David Benavidez was just an accident waiting to happen. He doesn't have the defense, Anthony Yarde, to box like that against a guy like Benavidez. And that was evident even from the first round. Benavidez was able to pin him on the ropes and start landing shots in combination. I mean, the writing was on the wall from the very first round. And Yarde's whole energy in this fight was like that of a man who wears bonnets. And I say that because Anthony Yarde does wear bonnets. I don't know where this bonnet trend came from. It's a female head garment. Now you got guys running around wearing bonnets. What has the world come to? And I always felt like there's no way that a slow jams listening, bonnet wearing, sweet boy like Anthony Yarde is going to be beating David Benavidez. Boxing don't work like that. Anthony Yarde's one of these guys who shows bravery in the ring as far as he won't quit. He'll stand there and take his beating, but he lacks that meanness which is required for success in the upper echelons of boxing. You got to be a sadistic individual in that ring. Doesn't matter how nice you are outside the ring. When that bell goes, you got to be sadistic in the ring, bro. And Anthony Yarde doesn't have that in him. He's an athlete and he's done very well with limited experience to get to where he's got to in boxing, but he just doesn't have, in my opinion, the type of character to take it to the next level. Doesn't have that type of meanness that you need. He's got enough meanness for, European level, fringe world level, but when it comes to like proper world level and especially elite world level, he doesn't have the killer instinct for it. Maybe he's overawed by these elite level guys, Psychologically, when he gets in with them, he feels like a fish out of water. So I was kind of disappointed by Yarde's performance. Again, I picked Benavidez to win, and I had absolutely no doubt about it whatsoever that he would win. But I thought Yarde would probably give it a better go than this. He was very disappointing. I thought it was terrible tactics that he and Tunde Ajayi came up with to try and box Benavidez on I mean, what on earth were they doing? For me, and I did say this pre-fight, Yarde's best bet would be to tuck up and try and use that physicality, especially early in the fight when he's fresh, and try and earn Benavidez's respect. Because if you don't earn Benavidez's respect and you allow him to come forward and start opening you up with those creative combinations and that jab and the different angles and whatnot, it's only a matter of time, bro. When Anthony Yarde didn't switch it up, there was maybe a brief period in, round 6, where he came forward for 20, 30 seconds, but then he was back on the back foot again. Very naive tactics from himself and Tunde. Gave Benavidez all the space in the world to set up his shots. Didn't give him anything to think about as far as slinging some real hard shots back. There was the occasional counter from Yarde, but because he was on the back foot, he wasn't getting any serious leverage in the shots. You see, some people can get massive power even when they're on the back foot, even when their backs to the ropes, but most fighters can't. Most fighters' power is significantly diminished when they have to fight going backwards, Anthony Yarde included. He needed to get his body weight forward and attack a lot more consistently to stand any chance of even getting Benavidez' respect. Because when you get a guy's respect, you can actually bring his work rate down. You can get him thinking more before he attacks you because he's tasted your power or he's tasted your physicality. You see what I mean? But Yarde boxing the way that he did, he was never going to get Benavidez' respect doing that. It's like a red rag to a bull, literally, when you're fighting like that against Benavidez. You can't finesse him. You have to be willing to stand and fight him, at least in spots, because he's very, very skilled, Benavidez. Again, this is something I said pre-fight. He is not a 175-pound version of Brandon Rios or Antonio Margarito. He's way more sophisticated as a pressure fighter than that. Way more skilled. Extremely creative offense. Sets his shots up very cleverly. Great jab. Underrated defense. He's improved his defense a lot over the past few years. This was actually Anthony Yarde's worst performance in world title fights so far. He did much better against Kovalev and Beterbiev than he did against David Benavidez. Is that partly because David Benavidez is maybe better at 175 than people realize? I think so. But also, as I say, I think it's down to Anthony Yarde's terrible tactics. So yeah, Benavidez gets the job done. Beats up Anthony Yarde, drops him, stops him in the 7th round. Yarde was never really in the fight. I don't think he won a round. Now, the big surprise post-fight was that rather than Benavidez calling out Dmitry Bivol, and I'd love to see that fight, by the way, I'll talk about that more in a second, he said that his next fight is going to be up at cruiserweight against Gilberto Ramirez. Now, I understand that fight from a commercial perspective because it's two Mexicans. One's a Mexican-American, the other one's an actual born and raised Mexican in Ramirez. So there's going to be a lot of eyes on that fight. There's a word for American-born Mexicans. Is it Chicanos? I think it's a Chicano. Because I remember when Oscar De La Hoya fought Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. back in the days. And that was another case of a born and raised Mexican versus a Mexican-American. And it kind of split the Mexican boxing community down those lines. And that's why it was such a popular fight, right? Obviously, you had two massively popular fighters. Benavidez and Ramirez are nowhere near as popular. Nowhere near as popular as those two, but they still have their following. And I suspect it will split the Mexican fan base down similar lines. So I get it from a commercial perspective. And also Benavidez getting the opportunity to become a 3-weight world champion at cruiserweight. And I think he'll beat Ramirez, by the way. I hope if that fight goes ahead and Benavidez, well, win or lose, I hope he comes back down to 175 and fights Dmitry Bivol. Because after Bivol beat Beterbiev in their rematch, I was saying in various videos that I think Benavidez gives Dmitry Bivol loads of problems, loads of trouble. I think it's a highly competitive fight. And the vast majority of people that commented on my videos where I was saying this were basically saying I was crazy. They were saying there's absolutely no way that Benavidez gives Bivol any trouble at all. Bivol will absolutely school him. It's an easy fight. Basically, this is what people were saying in the comments. I disagreed then, and I continue to disagree now. I think David Benavidez gives Dmitry Bivol a hell of a fight. Am I going to flat out pick Benavidez? I see it as maybe 55-45 in Bivol's favor, to be honest. I think it's a fight which Bivol could very conceivably lose. You know, people talk about Artur Beterbiev and the fact that Bivol was able to outbox him. But guess what? Artur Beterbiev, despite being very physically strong, hits hard, underrated boxing skills, the guy's 40 years old. And although I'm sure he hits harder than David Benavidez, he's a hell of a lot slower. His offense is not as creative, and he doesn't throw anywhere near as many punches. I think that David Benavidez will do a much better job of cutting off the ring and pressurizing Dmitry Bivol than Artur Beterbiev did. Again, not as destructive, not as heavy-handed as Beterbiev, maybe not as physically strong, but I don't think he necessarily has to be to cause Bivol loads of problems. It's that speed he's got, the boxing brain, the jab, the creativity on offense, the work rate. Dmitry Bivol was able to get breathers throughout the fight against Artur Beterbiev because Beterbiev doesn't throw that many shots. He ain't going to get any breathers against David Benavidez, folks, I'm telling you. So I think that's just a fascinating, very intriguing fight, which is why I was more interested in a Benavidez-Bivol fight than I ever was in a Bivol-Beterbiev trilogy match. But anyway, looks like Benavidez is going to fight Gilberto Ramirez next at cruiserweight, but I'm holding out hope that somehow, some way, he ends up fighting Bivol after that. Let me know what you guys thought about Benavidez' performance against Yarde, first of all, how you think he fares against Gilberto Ramirez, and how you think he would fare against Dmitry Bivol. Am I still in a tiny minority thinking that Benavidez gives Bivol all he can handle, or are more people starting to come around to the same perspective now? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and share this video. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out. Are you surrounded by mindless bots in human form who adhere to the norm and blindly conform? Who swallow all the mainstream BS and actually ridicule you for questioning things? Do you wish you had more free-thinking individuals in your life to network and converse with? Well, look no further. We're right here. Come and join the Brotherhood of Reason on Patreon. You'll gain access to my weekly topical content where we take deep dives on an endless variety of subjects, as well as my vast back catalogue of podcasts, videos, interviews, movie decodings, and my Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You'll also get to talk and network with myself and hundreds of other people in our members chat. You can enjoy all this via the Patreon app or on desktop and download all my podcasts in high quality MP3. There's no contract, no commitment. You can cancel at any time, just like Netflix, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper. Just download the app from the Play Store or the App Store, or simply visit patreon.com on a web browser. Then head on over to my page and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. All the links are in the description box below. And just a quick money-saving tip for Apple users. If you purchase your Patreon subscription on the desktop site or on Android, then you'll avoid the ridiculous 30% fee that Apple charges for purchases made on the iOS app. So if you're on iPhone or iPad, save yourself some money by buying your subscription on the actual Patreon website or on Android because it's a lot cheaper. Once you've made that initial purchase, you can then use the Patreon app on your iPhone or iPad thereafter to access and enjoy your content as normal.